falling and rising. In Matthew 14, we read that the disciples were on the Sea of Galilee without Jesus, and in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus came to them, walking on the water. The disciples, seeing Jesus, were frightened and cried out in fear, thinking he was a ghost. But Jesus reassured them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." The disciples, who were already trembling with fear, were now filled with amazement as they witnessed Jesus walking on the water. This was because a person walking on water defied the laws of nature. Although there were people at the time who performed various feats of magic, no one had shown the ability to walk on water, so their astonishment was understandable. Yet, even in such a situation, Peter boldly asked Jesus to command him to come to him on the water. Jesus granted Peter's request, and Peter began walking on the water. However, the Bible records that as soon as Peter noticed the wind, he became afraid and began to sink. In truth, we are no different from Peter. We too encounter situations far less daunting than a storm. And yet, like Peter, we fail to keep our eyes fixed on the Lord, falling into doubt and fear, sinking into the waters of our troubles. When our hearts are focused on the Lord, no matter how difficult or challenging the situation may be, we can overcome it with gratitude and contentment. But when our hearts and eyes are not focused on God, we become trapped in complaints and doubts. I also experienced a time in my mid-20s when I was filled with disappointment and discouragement in my walk of faith. At that time, my heart had drifted away from God and was consumed by complaints and resentment. One day, I visited a friend who worked at a Christian cafe called Gospel House. My friend did a bit of everything there, singing praise songs like a gospel singer, serving in the cafe, and preparing simple meals in the kitchen. On that particular day, when no one else was around in the afternoon, my friend sang a gospel song for me. The song was called "You Have Made Me Worthy." As I was watching my friend sing, I suddenly experienced something unusual. Everything around me seemed to go dark, and only my friend's face remained visible. While it's true that the cafe was somewhat dim, and sometimes such visual effects can happen when we focus intently on one spot, the experience was a powerful moment for me. It reminded me of a time when I kept my eyes only on the Lord, and even problems bigger than the one I was facing at that time seemed insignificant. At that moment I realized, I am not fixing my eyes on the Lord right now. Ultimately, where our hearts and eyes are focused will determine whether we are filled with gratitude or complaints and resentment. Thanks to my friend, I came to this realization and was able to move away from a heart of complaint and resentment, deciding once again to fix my eyes solely on the Lord. It was a small moment, but it was through this small moment that God's grace changed my heart and mind. Many of us live with the burden of trying not to fall. We fear failure, mistakes, and doing something wrong. And as a result, we cannot truly experience freedom. When we do fail or make mistakes, we often lack the strength to rise again. Our hearts are focused on our falling, but God's heart is focused on our rising. Even when we encounter failure, mistakes, or times of despair, if our hearts are fixed on the Lord, we will find the strength to rise, to walk again, and even to run. Fix your hearts on the Lord. When you do, the various events in your life will no longer be sources of sorrow or pain, but will become the driving force that draws your eyes back to the Lord. Only those who fix their eyes on the Lord, without turning to the left or right, will receive the strength to move forward on the path of faith, walking boldly on the road the Lord has prepared for them.
구독, 좋아요, 알림 설정 해주세요. Subscribe, like, set notifications.